The Book of Evan. I appreciate the help. Evan emerging from behind an array of stacked books, weaving into the open space. Ever the curator, welcoming his guests. Sorry about the mess, but once we get this table set up, the rest will all just fall into place. Yeah, Burke gave me the quick overview, but I think it is quite doable. Evan had yet to see a project Dean didn't think was doable, but then again he has done each one so far, no reason not to trust him. Humour me, wouldn't want to deprive our new friend Mel from hearing my vision before you bring it to life. Pausing, waiting till Dean waved his hands, saying, "Go right ahead." Here. Evan standing dead center of the 10-meter wide semisphere chamber. This will be where the light table will be. It's a meter in diameter, 1.4 meters high, with the projector positioned above it. The light will come only out of the top, illuminating the slide on the glass tabletop, through to the projector and encompassing the ceiling above us. Throwing his hands wide, softly spinning in place, imagining the light show come to life above them. This was the canvas onto which his lessons would be drawn. This was the observatory. This was where the archivist, be it now Evan, but also his predecessors. This space will be needed for generations of students and archivists alike. This is where the occupants of the Ark will explore all the good mankind was losing in the flood as well. The images, sounds, ideas shared inside this dome. This will lay the foundation for the society that inhabits God's kingdom on earth. The lessons were meant to be viewed from below, from the darkness of the floor, the images projected on the dome above, the light dancing, so vivid and real, the air thick with nostalgia, return. To a time none of them ever knew or experienced, if not for what was saved, included in the archive. Evan leaving the dregs of man's deviance on the curb, to be washed away with all the rest of the trash when the rains finally fall. You've got a lot of boys' life here. Scout materials? Mel's statement coming out as a question to Evan as much as to the room, flipping through the stacks of books and magazines encompassing them. Need to prepare the coming generations to survive in a post-flood world. The Boy Scouts are a good foundation. Evan working his way back towards Mel, ever the voyeur Evan was curious to watch the skeptic turn his eye on his life's work. Couple that with my National Geographics to help illustrate the beauty of the greater whole of our planet for future trailblazers to rediscover. A roadmap to repopulate God's kingdom. Makes sense. Those two words being as close to approval as Mel was known to give. So how did you end up here, Mel? Don't see you as the blind faith kind of guy. Dean asking what all the members of the Ark were wondering. I'm more just a consultant, not a full-fledged member. Mel smiled, brushing it off, but Evan and Dean both knew there were no consultants inside the Ark. Burke wouldn't have revealed the Ark to someone if God wasn't reassuring Burke he was coming as well. I could have said the same about you. Evan shooting the offhand comment towards Dean. Evan wasn't one to trouble himself with the personal lives of others, but seeing how he is planning on spending the rest of his mortal life with these men, might want to form some sort of bond, connecting. I look at it more as going as far off the grid as possible. Dean's voice sounding like a laugh while his eyes still fixed, examining, measuring, contemplating how he will bring into existence this fancy light show that Evan has dreamed up. So, it was more just a matter of this place having only one easily secured entrance while being self-sustainable than, say, Burke's message that makes this so appealing to you. Mel ever the skeptic questioning the motives of a man trying to bond with them. No, this setup piqued my interest. But Burke, well, let's just say he made one hell of a pitch. All three men sharing a glance of agreement, all feeling the same way. Burke reminded me a lot of my father, slipping out as if not of his accord, involuntary, extracted from him. Dean was never big on exposing self-revelations, especially when it came to his dad, a man who valued his privacy above all else, but there was something about being in the archive, being with Evan, like adding grease to an old sticky hinge, causing them to just open up seemingly on their own. Not like physically, the two men couldn't have been more different. An unconscious smile creeping across his face, remembering his father, picturing him chopping firewood or fixing a gate, big and powerful while always working, fixing or building something. But there was just something in the way Burke carried himself, his words soft and sparse, but what was said, powerful. The other two men, having never met Dean's father, could totally see a force like that making an indelible mark on Dean, shaping him into the man standing before them, preparing to bring Evan's idea into existence. "So your special table?" Mel, satisfied with Dean's answer and appreciating how difficult it was for him to deliver, vulnerable, almost regretting he shared, ready to turn his scrutiny towards Evan's baby, the project at hand. "Can we watch movies on it? I always loved Casablanca. I have it on VHS." The first of Mel's questions to come across sincere and not scrutiny, with simple joy and no deeper innuendo. Evan chuckled softly. "Yes, I didn't need you to tell me you were a Casablanca fan." Evan, looking up and smiling at Mel, seeing his new friend's confusion, elaborated, "It's the only love story where the guy doesn't end up with the girl. Totally your vibe." All three men sharing a laugh, Evan's assessment spot on. "But to answer your real question, I can play Casablanca in here if we have it on film, not VHS." Evan once again surveying Mel's blank expression as his cue to elaborate. "When you film a movie on actual film stock, the silver nitrate reacts with the light to record the image. That chemical reaction capturing reality, that is analog. Burke is fine with anything analog, but VHS. Well, that is digital. VHS is magnetic tape that holds a collection of small changes in the magnet's position. Up is a 0 and down is a 1. That data can be used to recreate the image that is recorded, that recreating is what makes it digital. And as I'm sure you have heard by now, the devil is in digital." Ever the teacher leading his students to the main purpose of the day's lesson. "The devil is in digital. So you're saying if I track down a 16mm copy of Casablanca, we can watch it in here?" Once again, the new-found friends shared a laugh. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad as their new normal. "You seem more like the solitary worship kind of guy. Curious how you and Burke even crossed paths in the first place." Mel might have changed the subject prior, feeling the awkwardness that sharing was creating, but ever the skeptic, he could hardly stop his mind from wanting to fill any holes it might encounter. The simple quandary both respecting Dean's private memories while still putting together all the pieces that led to these three men standing together preparing for the apocalypse inside an ancient lava tube. "Kate." Dean's single-word answer presented like that would be more than enough to quell Mel's questions. Kate, the utterance of the single name being more than enough to suck Evan in as well, now needing much more information. "Yeah." Dean began absent-mindedly as he moved a few things, taking measurements of the space, jotting down notes for what he will need to build Evan's contraption. "Fuck, we are going to need a bit more than that. Just saying Kate only raises more questions than it answers." Mel, unable to wait any longer, his patience for revelation not always as tempered as he would want. "Kate hired me to build a deck at some summer house or something I think they owned." Dean still focused on the project before him and less on the actions that brought him to this point. "And?" Evan too now feeling the need to all but reach into Dean's mouth and pull the words out of him. "And next thing I know, I'm in Burke's truck deep in the forest because he wanted to show me this." Dean finally done with his notes, searching for the right word before settling on gesturing to the entirety of what encompassed them. "Dude, same thing happened to me." Mel almost jumping out of his shoes to interject, not wanting to cut Dean's recapping short, but was pretty sure Dean was going to do so anyway, interruption or not. "Kate gave my wife a ride home from work one day, and the next day I was somehow in Burke's truck taking me here." Like I said, Burke seems to have a way to really drive home his argument. The three new friends sharing in their common occurrence. "What about you, Evan? Did Kate Jedi mind trick you into Burke's truck as well?" Dean happy to shift the focus to anyone else. "No, my father worked at Solium Day Ranch, not far from here. Burke's family owned the ranch and my father was its caretaker. Burke and his family, they saw my father, and by extension my mother and I, as more than just hired help. They saw something inside him, some greater good that most people missed. To most, my father was a weirdo that cared way too much about grass or bushes, but at the ranch, they saw a man struggling in an eternal battle to control nature, to tame it. Evan, now the one with the subconscious smile, pride in the greater value of his father's simple deeds, drenching himself in nostalgia for a change. Burke laid out his plan as he helped me fill in his grave behind the ranch. Stopping, wiping the tear from his eye as he recalled the moment, the man who once paid his father to care for that land, helping to return him to it. What's with the yearbooks? Mel's question feeling like a lifeline, an excuse to change the subject, transition from a tough moment, but could have just as easily been his inability to contain his skeptical gaze, needing to fill in the gaps in his understanding of what was surrounding him. They are an affordable means to capture teen social interactions in a way that isn't overly sexualized, like so much popular TV and movies. We can leave the 90210 generation behind with all the other relics of a failed experiment. Evan's tambour in full docent mode, having shaken the emotional cobwebs the last stroll down memory lane was lousy with. I have to admit, Beverly Hills 90210 is a guilty pleasure for me. Mel laughing, remembering a happy moment from his past, as if Evan was exuding nostalgia. The warm feeling of the cherished memory loosening his tongue, prompting him to share. Evan catching eyes with Mel, visually taking him by the metaphorical hand, guiding his new friend down memory lane, encouraging him to continue. When Liz and I were first dating, Mel feeling a sudden urge to defend liking the show, like it was an attack on his character. She loved the show, and I loved laying in bed with her watching it. We never had much, but we always had these moments together. Just a lot of good memories, but I get your point. The yearbooks are a clean, wholesome way to show teens being teens. Makes sense. There it was again, that's twice. Evan will surely take that as a win. Plus, schools always buy too many and were more than willing to donate for free, if just to clean up some space. Evan turning back to Mel ready if the skeptic needed more. How are we bringing Evan's vision to life? Burke greeting the group of men with a question as he entered the future observatory. Pretty straightforward, shouldn't be any real issue. Dean stating matter-of-factly as he wanders over towards Mel and the towers of books. I was just giving Mel a taste of my collection. Evan injecting with pride, confident that Mel has been satisfied with his findings to this point. I like the yearbooks, clever way to capture teen social interaction. Mel giving his early assessment as he thumbed through the stacks of yearbooks. Is there a system to these, or is it just a temporary pile till things get settled? They are loosely grouped by year and then alphabetically by school. Evan replied to Mel before returning his attention to Burke, curious why he was suddenly hovering. You okay, pal? You look like you saw a ghost. Dean noticing a frozen pale Mel fixated on the tome in his hands. Did you purchase specific yearbooks? Mel's question tentative, hoping Evan's answer would explain what he is looking at. No. I just sent out a mass of form letters to all school districts asking for any surplus editions. Evan's answer direct, matter-of-fact, unsure what Mel could have possibly stumbled upon. This is my yearbook, not my personal copy, but my senior year. Mel began, like that would be enough information to explain to the group what he found. Yeah, that would make sense. I have yearbooks going back the last 2 decades. Yes, but it's not the actual yearbook, but… Mel drifting off, unsure if he should say it out loud. Words that only have power when they are left unuttered. It's okay, son. God's message can have that effect on people. Burke cooed in a soothing, reverent tone. Evan and Dean sharing a look, clearly missing something that Burke seems to know, or Mel is just discovering. I'm sorry, did I miss something? Evan unable to let the unspoken pall hang over the group. If Evan's superpower is instilling nostalgia, his kryptonite is not knowing all the anecdotes that accompany said items. The not knowing starting to manifest in a feverish itch, Evan had to press the issue, had to hear what Mel was holding on to. My mum was very religious. She would tell me all the time that God spoke to her, that God speaks to all of us, that He is that voice we hear when our mind goes blank. Mel started hoping that would be enough and he could leave this be. John 10:27, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Burke ever the preacher, ready with the verse that helps corroborate. She was a good sheep, she followed that voice blindly. She got sick when I was 10. I lost her at 11. Mel lost in the memory, the pain, the loss washing over him like it was yesterday. Even Evan's superpower couldn't make that memory feel nostalgic. Burke giving Evan a look, and single finger raised, telling Evan to wait, to let Mel find his own path to the answer he seeks. Evan's artifacts might be the key, but some people need to find it at their own pace, without assistance. The voice in my head clearly wasn't God, and it was never silent. I tried to hear God. Maybe his message was just lost in the static. A whisper drowned out by all the other guests at the dinner party. I needed a way to filter out the noise, a way to authenticate a genuine message. Mel not once looking at his new friends, possibly the last 4 men he will ever meet again, fixed on the yearbook open in his hands. I created a test set to meet my standards, what I would need as proof that it truly was a message from God. I always wanted there to be a God. I just never saw any proof of him in my life, but this would be undeniable proof to me. Okay, I need to know, what was the test? Dean blurting what Evan was almost jumping out of his shoes to ask. I never told anyone of the test, only I would know it existed. Until now, of course. Mel pausing, had he said too much already to turn back? Had he tainted the waters? Or was he holding God's answer? I thought of a question only I would know, a question that only I would know if the answer was correct, but a question that there was no way that I personally could know the answer to. I didn't want God taking credit for my subconscious figuring out the answer. But what is so special about that yearbook? I mean, it makes sense I might have your yearbook. I have basically the past 2 decades from most school districts within 100 miles of here. Not really astronomical odds against, if you ask me. Evan doing his best Mel impersonation. It's not the yearbook, but what is written inside it. Mel handing the yearbook to Evan, the senior photo of a pretty brunette with a heart around her, written next to her. You were always the answer to the only question that mattered. Yeah, she's cute. I can see why some guy had a crush on her. Dean not quite seeing the miracle in all this. It's the only photo with anything written next to it. It's the only thing written anywhere in this entire yearbook. Evan flipping through the entirety of the yearbook, not one other mark made inside. And the photo, of all the photos to be selected, Mel taking the book from Evan's hands, returning to the page in question, that photo was very likely the answer to my question. Mel holding the question to himself, clinging to it, but the other 3 men got the point without needing to know the intimate nature of the query. Hebrews 3:15. Remember what it says. Today when you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts as Israel did when they rebelled. Burke smiling at his skeptic. Mel's agnosticism, his shield, the ambiguity of God's existence, his armor.
The devil is in digital, but the truth is waiting. Click the link in the description to get your copy of the Book of the Dove today. Subscribe, hit the like button, and click the video on your screen right now to dive straight into the next chapter.